Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Lifetime Legacy Lawyer podcast. I am your co-host, Thomas Vick, joined by my co-host, Seth Wilson. Seth, how's it going today?
Thomas, I'm doing great. It is really exciting to be back in the studio, so to speak, with you and getting the year of 2026 off to a great start. I was thinking about all of the transition stuff that happens and how much energy it takes to bring the last year to a close and then get the new year off to a good start as well. And I think, what are we, a couple days into the new year now by the time we're recording this, but I'm starting to feel like, hey, I've got some of that stuff closed out and really starting to be able to look forward to what's coming down in 2026. How about you?
Yeah, things are going well. Off to a good start in 2026. I'm happy to hear that your year is off to a good start as well. Yeah, this is a good opportunity to kind of think about closing the previous year and opening up the new year. I'll just kind of talk about what my week has been like in this first week back at the office. As I may have mentioned previously on the podcast, typically shut down my law practice. Everybody, has a nice break between Christmas and New Year's, so we were able to enjoy that this past couple weeks. But now we're back at it, and some of the things that we have to do is just because we weren't scheduling people in that first or the last couple weeks of December, we have a lot of initial consultations. So I had probably a lot more initial consultations with folks this week than I have in the last week. So there's like an initial flurry of consultations. And alongside that is work that's kind of hanging over after the previous year, estate plans that haven't been finished, or some emails that I need to get to. That kind of thing needs to be addressed here at the beginning of the year. So that's been kind of the beginning of my year, and that's maybe a little bit unique to my practice because I've closed down the last week or so of the year.
Yeah, it's always amazing to me, and we were kind of joking before we started recording about how you have noticed patterns of my year ends over the past several years and the things I often forget to
Every
include on
time.
every time. One of the big things for me is when I calendar out my year, I typically do a year of recurring appointments, but maybe this is just a holdover from when syncing calendar entries first started, and it would goof up your calendar if you did recurring events and didn't put an end date on them. And I just kind of have some hesitation to say, well, just put this recurring event on my calendar and leave it there, because in past years, law practice management systems would not react too well to that. Or if later I had to go back and had somebody who left the office, for example, then I had to go clean out all of these calendar events that were sort of there in perpetuity. And so every year I end up forgetting to get the next year's stuff on the calendar, and inevitably I get scheduled over those recurring times. And so already this week I'd missed an appointment with someone that was a recurring appointment, and they text me and say, "Hey, are you coming?" And I'm going, I didn't have that on the calendar. Even our podcast today was like, oh, I better get that back on the calendar because
Yeah.
we need it there. And there's competing events around that. And so, true confession time, even though you feel like or sometimes present that you have everything all together, it's not always that case.
Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. I definitely have a different practice when it comes to scheduling recurring events, but I'm also hearing what you're saying about how law practice management programs treat recurring events. And I'm wondering, why do I have this event 10 times on my calendar? Well, that may be the explanation for that. Now I know why.
Yeah. So in general, I love the question, what does this make possible? So after I get over the initial, embarrassment or frustration or whatever it may be from my own personal failure, what do I learn from it? And how do I adjust things moving forward? And so one of the things we've done this year is actually calendared a time in November of this year to go through all the recurring events and go ahead and add them at that time. For the most part, that's going to catch any conflicts or things that may have arisen because we're not usually scheduling quite that far out. On occasion we do, but if we have trial or something like that. But then you have a much lower likelihood of accidentally double booking yourself or forgetting an important meeting, and thankfully people are very kind and gracious and understand. But the beginning of this year combined with the closing of last year, I don't think I've ever been as busy at that time and season as I was this year. And, it's such a blessing to have that as a practicing lawyer, to have enough work in general, but then to have almost too much to try and get done just really highlights the importance of having that schedule built in to make sure that you can handle the workload that's coming your way.
Yeah, absolutely. On my end of things, I've done some calendaring. Of course, my law firm has a 4-day work week. Most of the employees work Monday through Thursday. And then we have one employee that works on Friday. And so I've calendared out the 4-day work week. And because the 4-day work week is atypical, I think that's really important to have so the employees know what to expect. For instance, on weeks where there's a holiday, and our practice has been, well, if there's a holiday on Monday, like Labor Day, we'll just push our 4-day work week to Tuesday through Friday. And so getting that communication out there to the employees, attorneys have different kinds of schedules. We're bound to court hearings and things like that. For our staff, we're able to, be a little bit more predictable with our schedule. And so getting that 2026 calendar out so that there are expectations and, so people can let you're going to be out of town at this point in time. How do we rearrange the calendar to prepare for that? Those kinds of things, those discussions can start here early in the year so that, if somebody has to be out for a week or two, in the month of June, you're not stressing out about it. You've got a plan in place to deal with that situation.
Yeah, and I will say too, from just a standpoint of planning, when you look at your payroll, for example, and are you offering paid time off that includes those holidays or even additional holidays? That's another thing to make sure that's factored in and communicated to your team so they can do the planning that they're trying to do using their time, the vacation time that's there, the holiday time, however that works out. And so I think that's a really big key as well. And we also utilize a VoIP or VoIP phone system. And so we have the ability to pre-program the days that we're going to be out of the office. And so having that communicated to the team that actually handles the programming of our out of office response on those particular days is very important. So they need to know which days you're going to be there. So when someone calls in, there's that communication of, hey, we're closed today, but here's voicemail and here's how to get access to leaving information for the attorneys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's great. And you can kind of be thinking about marketing efforts as well, not just, employees being out, but you can be thinking about, well, maybe I want to go ahead and plan an email that I'll send out to my clients, around the July 4th holiday, or maybe around Labor Day weekend, or, there might be an estate planning month. I think it might be October or something like that. You could plan out those emails that you're going to send. And, if you got certain systems in place, you could go ahead and get it started, get it in the queue, so to speak, and it'll send out automatically and you don't have to worry about it. So you can just kind of think about what your year is going to be like. And, it's like the coach John Wooden used to say, failing to plan is planning to fail. So have a plan in place for your upcoming year.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in more detail in some upcoming episodes. But even the financial planning for the year, what are the goals? And I know you and I have had some discussions on different approaches you can take to that in terms of numbers or percentages or those kind of things. And I'm sure we'll dig into that in the upcoming weeks here. But having as much of that freedom to think about it, my experience this year was I wanted all that done before the start of the new year, but just the existing work needed to be done left no time to get everything else done. So as I was thinking about that process for how to close up last year and what I need in 2026 to make sure I have this sufficient time allocated to these different things that I want to do, it's just really helpful. And so I've already blocked off some of those days to say, look, these are dates I'm going to do these actions because I know about how long that's going to take me. And if I have enough self-discipline when I get there, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah. I think that would be a great discussion on financial planning for the law firm. How do you manage, what is happening today, but then also you're planning for what's happening a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You want to set yourself up so that you're in a good position for the future. And I think that would be an excellent discussion to have at a just kind of a short podcast today. We wanted to get some thoughts out there as we start a new year. Seth, what's the best way for people to subscribe to the podcast?
Well, Thomas, I think the best way and the easiest way is to go to youtube.com, and we have the handle at Lifetime Legacy Lawyers. I think YouTube is always like 1 or 2 in terms of search engine rankings. So just type in Lifetime Legacy Lawyer. You'll find all of our back episodes there and how to get in touch with us. And we would encourage, as you have questions or you're thinking about launching your own law firm, to put those in the comments or reach out to us, and we'd be happy to answer that either directly back to you or maybe even on the podcast itself.
Yeah, it sounds great. I encourage everybody to subscribe to the YouTube page. And we are the Lifetime Legacy Lawyer Podcast, helping lawyers launch. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Thomas.